Today we usually judge. Today we usually judge, judge people based on the classic assumption. Obese people are ridiculed and shamed because their obesity is seen as a failure of self-control. They know they should be thin, yet they continue to eat. Why? Something must be wrong with them. We assume smoker, same deal. Drug addict receive the same treatment, of course, but often with the extra stigma to be being defined as a criminal. Depressed and the suicidal people are subjected to the classic assumption in the way that dangerous, being told that their inability to create hope and meaning in their lives is their own damn fault. That maybe if they just try to little harder, hanging themselves by their necktie wouldn't sound so appealing. We see stumbling to our emotion impulses as the moral failing. We see the lack of self-control as a sign of deficient character. Con- Conversely, we celebrate people who beat their emotion into a submission. We get collective hard ones for the athletes and the businessmen and the leaders who are ruthless and robotic in their efficiency. If a CEO sleeps under his desk and does not see his kid for a 6 week at a time, fuck A, that's a determination. See, anyone can be successful. Clearly, it's not hard to show how classic assumption can lead to some damaging assumption. If a classic assumption is a true, then we should be able to exhibit a self-control, prevent emotional outbursts, and the crimes of passion. And step of addiction and the indulgence through the mental effort alone. And any failure to do so reflects something inherently faulty to damage within us. This is why we often develop a false belief that we need to change who we are. Because if we can't achieve our goals, if we can't lose the weight or the get a promotion or learn the skill, then the signifies some internal deficiency. Therefore, in order to maintain hope, we decided we must change ourselves, become somebody totally new and different. This desire to change ourselves then refill us with a hope. An old man could shake the terrible smoking habit, but the new me will, and we are off to the races again. The constant desire to change yourself then becomes its own sort of addiction. Each cycle of changing yourself result in the similar failure of self-control, therefore making you feel as though you need to change yourself all over again. Each cycle refuels you with the hope you are looking for. Meanwhile, the classic assumption, the root of the problem is never addressed or the questioned, let alone thrown out. Link like a bad case of acne. The whole industry has sprouted up over the past couple of centuries around the change yourself idea. This industry is replete with the false promises and the clues to the secret of happiness, success, and the self-control. Yet all the industry does is reinforce the same impulses that drive people to feel inadequate in the first place. The truth is that the human mind is far more complex than any secret, and you can't simply change yourself. Nor I would argue should you always feel you must. We cling to this narrative about self-control because the belief that we are in complete control of ourselves is a major source of the hope. We want to believe that changing ourselves is as simple as knowing what to change. We want to believe that the ability to do something is as simple as deciding to do it and mastering enough willpower to get there. We want to believe ourselves to be the master of our own destiny, capable of anything we can dream. That is what made Damasio discovery with Eliot such a big deal. It showed that classic assumption is wrong. If the classic assumption were true, if life were as simple as learning to control own emotion and make a decision based on the reason that Eliot should have been an unstoppable badass, tirelessly in industries and ruthless decision maker. Similarly, if the classic assumption were true, lobotomites should be all the rage. We would all be saving up for them as if they were boob jobs. We would all be saving up for them if they were a boob jobs. But lobotomies don't owe, and Eliot's life was ruined. The fact is that we require more than willpower to achieve self control. It turns out that our emotions are the instrumental in our decision making and our action. We just don't always realize it. You have two brains, and they are really bad at talking to each other. You have two brains, and they are really bad at talking to each other. Let's pretend your mind is a car. Let's call it a consciousness car. Your consciousness car is driving along the road of life, and there are the intersections on the ramps and off ramps. These roads and the intersection represent a decision you must make as you drive, and they will determine your destination. Now there are the two travelers in your consciousness car: a thinking brain and the feeling brain. A thinking brain and the feeling brain. The thinking brain represents your conscious thought, your ability to make a calculation, and the ability to reason through the various options and the express idea through the language. Your feeling brain represents your emotion, impulses, intuition, and the instinct, while your thinking brain is calculating payment schedule on your credit card statement. Your feeling brain wants to sell everything and run away to the Tahiti. Each of your two brains has its strength and weakness. The thinking brain is accurate, and impartial. It is a methodical, and rational. But it's also slow. It requires a lot of effort and energy, and like a muscle, it must be built up over the time, and can be fatigued, fatigued if overexerted. The feeling brain, however, arrives at its conclusion quickly and effortlessly. The problem is that it is often inaccurate and irrational. The feeling brain is also a bit of drama queen and has a bad habit of overacting. When we think of ourselves and our decision making, we generally assume that the thinking brain is driving our consciousness car and feeling brain is sitting in the passenger seat, shouting out where it wants to go. We are we we are driving along the accomplishing our goal and figuring out how to get home. When that damn feeling brain sees something spinny or sexy or fun looking and yanks the steering wheel in another direction, thus causing us to careen into oncoming traffic, harming other people's consciousness, car as well as our own. This this is the classic assumption. The belief that our reason is ultimately in control of our life, and that we must train our emotion to sit the fuck down and shut up while adult is driving. We then applaud this kind kidnapping and abuse our own emotion by the congratulating ourselves and our self control. But our consciousness car does not work that way. When his tumor was removed, Eliot's feeling brain got thrown out of his moving mental vehicle, and nothing got better for him. In fact, his consciousness car stalled out, lobotomy patient had their feeling brain tied up and thrown in the car's trunk. And that merely caused them to become settled, uh, sedated, sedated, sedated and lazy, unable to get out of the bed or even dress themselves much of the time. Meanwhile, Tom Waits was pretty much all the feeling brain all the time, and he got paid copious amount of money to be drunk on the television talk show. So there's that. Here, the truth, the feeling brain is driving our consciousness car, and I don't care how scientific you think you are, or how many letters you have after your name. You are one of us, Buko. You are crazy. Feeling brain piloted me, meet robot just like the rest of us. Keep your bodily fluid to yourself, please. The feeling brain drives our consciousness car because ultimately we are moved to action only by the emotion. That's because action is emotion. Emotion is a biological hydraulic system that pushes our bodies into a movement. Fear is not a magical thing your brain invent. No, it's happen in our bodies. It's a tightening of your stomach, the tension of your muscle, the release of adrenaline, the overwhelming desire for the space and the emptiness around your body. While the thinking brain exists solely with the synaptic arrangement inside your skull, and the feeling brain is the wisdom and the stupidity of entire body. Anger pushes your body to move, anxiety pulls it into a retreat. Joy lights up the facial muscle while sadness attempts to sedate your existence from view. Emotion inspire action and the action inspire emotion. The two are the inseparable. This leads to the simplest and the most obvious answer to the timeless question. Why don't why don't we do things we know we should do? Because we don't feel like it.